Alright guys, finally starting to plan a couple of extended trips. One will be for 6 days in May and then another for 10 days later in August. And up until now, Joe and I have been kind of doing smaller trips on the order of 3 to 4 days, sometimes 5, but I think mostly around 3 to 4 days. And for the most part, my power meets have been pretty light. So essentially what I was taking is my DSLR and my main DSLR camera battery. Have my GPS, and typically the GPS requires about 2 batteries every 2 days. So again, if we're taking a 7-day trip, you know, we're looking at a bank of 6 or 8 batteries to last that. Cell phone, I never really worry about a cell phone too much. I put it in my bag, I shut it off, take the power off, and I don't really use it while I'm outside. And then a headlamp, which usually takes, this particular model takes 1 AA, and it really doesn't use that much power. The real game changer in the power environment came when I ended up picking up the GoPro camera. And the GoPro is a really cool camera. I've been fooling around with it, but one of the warnings that a lot of people give you is that its battery life is not all that good. So these are the batteries that come with the GoPro. And there's a cool website, which I will take a shot of right now. This Can Do website, and they actually give you all the specs about power consumption of the GoPro. And when you start to compute that power consumption relative to the size of these batteries are 3.86 watt hours. It's not a great story. So typically, looking at the Can Do website, what I've learned is essentially that this system basically draws quite a bit of power even when it's on standby. And when it's on Wi-Fi, basically the system is drawing even more power than what it would normally when it's taking full video. So the Wi-Fi remote is pretty cool for certain shots to set up, but if you're trying to conserve battery, this probably isn't the way to go. The camera actually uses initially it uses about half of the power consumption when it's on standby, and then after a little while the camera kind of shuts itself down a bit, but it's still using about 1/4 of the power consumption. So again, this is a good lesson learned. If you're trying to maximize the camera's battery life, then you probably should be shutting it right off between takes. As opposed to just leaving it on standby, which is what I do almost 100% of the time with my DSLR. And the DSLR, you know, uses a little tiny bit of battery life for your light meter that shuts itself down, and it basically doesn't use much power at all. So between looking at the Can Do's websites and the power consumption tables, and then I started to kind of play around with this a little bit myself, trying to figure out how I shoot. And you know, that's the benefits of getting to know your equipment, is given the manner in which you shoot video, you know, how long will it take. And typically, for the way I shoot things, about 2 batteries per day will probably take me through a day of shooting, particularly if I'm using the GoPro and my DSLR together. So 2 batteries per day starts to compute to quite a few batteries. I have 2 spares and 1 in the camera. I have 3 here, but that's not quite going to get me through 2 days of full shooting. And if I'm going to really tack in spares here for 7 days, you know, I need about 14 batteries, and that's a lot of batteries. They're not super expensive, but they're about $20 a piece. And of course, those GoPro batteries are only going to work with GoPro. So looking at a bunch of reviews and really influenced by the Happy Camper and his solar power choices, he's talked a lot about Goal Zero and their system. So I ended up upgrading to a Goal Zero Nomad 7 that has a capacity of 7 watt hours in full sunlight. And one of the cool things that the Goal Zero, if you purchase it with the Guide 10 Plus, what this is a battery backup. Very similar to what you would have with the USB battery backups that are marketed to charge cell phones. But instead of having just its own lithium-ion battery, what they use is a bank of nickel metal hydride rechargeable batteries. So basically you hook this up to the Goal Zero, it charges the batteries, and then you can use this battery backup to basically charge anything with a USB device. So this could be basically hooked up to the GoPro and charge its battery within the camera, and it could be hooked up to my cell phone, or you know, I can just basically pull the battery out and use it with my GPS or my headlamp. And then finally, you know, there's an adapter here for AAA's, so I can use the basically GoPro to recharge rechargeable batteries, AAA batteries that I need for a voice recorder. And that voice recorder is yet another electronic piece of gear in support of the GoPro camera, because essentially when that GoPro is in its waterproof case, the sound is rather atrocious. So you need an external audio device. I like this little Sony. Somebody asked me about it. It's Sony. It just says MP3 linear PCM recording, but it does pretty good audio. I'll do a test of that a little bit later and insert it. I'm just inserting the Sony audio here. Okay, so this is an opportunity. So basically the 4 of these AA batteries gives me right around 10 watts of power, a little bit under 10 watts of power depending on the magnitude of the charge. So the GoPro bank comes with a 2300 milliampere hour recyclable batteries. I've been told a lot of good things about these Enaloops, and these Enaloop batteries are very low discharge, but they're also supposed to be good for like 1500 charges. So that's a system, but these batteries have basically their minimum is 1900 milliampere hours, and they're rated to 2000. So those give you about 10 watts of power, and 10 watts of power is about 2.5 of these batteries. All right. So in other words, I can do 2 things when I'm on the trip. I can choose to forgo the Goal Zero, bring my Adventure 10, and just bring a bank of batteries to supply my needs. And I basically need, again, about a bank of these 4 batteries for every day out there. So that's getting to be quite a bit of batteries. So again, for 7 days, that means I need about 28 rechargeable batteries, which starts to get pretty heavy. These things, 4 of these batteries weighs about 100 grams. So really to deal with 7 days of AA batteries, I need somewhere close to 700 grams, 3/4 of a kilogram, to satisfy my power needs. So the other option is to bring the solar panel with you, and perhaps a spare set of a few extra banks of batteries, so that I can basically buffer those days when I have poor sun, cloud, or just not the time to recharge up a bank. So I think an ideal situation is bringing the Goal Zero Guide 10 Plus, and maybe another set of 4 of these rechargeable batteries. and also the Goal Zero. The Goal Zero weighs about the same weight as 4 banks of batteries. So again, I think your decision point about what you're going to bring for power needs is going to be a function of the duration and the number of implements that you might be bringing. The other nice thing about the Goal Zero is it does have a 12-volt output, so I can recharge my DSLR battery from this system. As I indicated, I can recharge the AAAs, and I can recharge the phone. So everything on this table can be basically dealt with the combination of this system. And again, it becomes a bit of a sticky point about how long you're going, how much power you think you'll need. Clearly, if you conserve more power, you can take fewer batteries with you and fewer backups. You always want to have some backups. If you're going to do some backups, this might be a good option to use. These are Energizer lithium batteries. These are basically quite a bit lighter. So a bank of 4 of these batteries weighs about 60 grams compared to 100 grams. So if you're bringing multiple batteries like these to service things like your GPS, this is a lightweight option, although they're a little bit pricey, and of course they're only used once. A really unfortunate thing is Goal Zero is quite adamant that you can't use non-rechargeable batteries or lithium batteries within the Guide 10 Plus, which is unfortunate, because if I were to take a set or a bank of 28 of these batteries, that would be quite a bit lower. That would be on the order of about 500 grams as opposed to 700 grams. So that's kind of an unfortunate thing, but it's the system that it is. So one other things in my research, and I got a lot of help on the forums on this, is I was having a lot of bad luck with my rechargeable batteries. And I was using a standard battery charger. In fact, I was using probably the worst case scenario. It was one of those rapid battery chargers, which is supposed to have really poor performance. And I started to get to a point with my rechargeable batteries where they would get a little bit unpredictable. And so I would have good luck with one set, and then I'd have put another set in, and now my GPS only lasts half a day where I thought it was going to last 2 days. And that could play a lot of havoc with your confidence in your equipment, and basically your confidence in the battery system. And I got to the point where I was just about to throw all my rechargeable batteries away. I didn't go to the anti-loop system yet, but a lot of people really encouraged me to upgrade the battery charger. And this is quite a pretty large investment. This is the MAHA, I think C9000 or something like that. It's a PowerX, they call it a battery analyzer. Is more than just charging. So it will basically progressively take your batteries through cycles of charge and discharge. And every time it discharges it computes the milliamp hours of each battery. So you can do this in a fairly automated fashion. It has a whole series of different presets. But one of the values, especially if you have a bunch of old batteries, is you can try and recover them through a series of cycles. And some of them that just show poor performance, I ended up having to toss them out. But if I end up with a bank of 4 of these batteries in a device, and one of them is bad, then it's going to be the weakest link, and it's going to basically cause that device shut down a lot quicker than the other 3 batteries. And you really have no indication which battery is gone on you. So this system basically lets you evaluate all your batteries. It actually takes quite a bit of time. If you have a large number of batteries, it takes a couple of weeks to do, but the system is quite effective. And a really, really great idea that somebody on Canadian Canoe Routes gave me is for management, particularly of recyclable batteries, is to basically label when you last charged it and the milliamp hour rating of the battery itself. And this basically lets you, pair up sets of batteries that have equivalent milliamp hours. You can perhaps pull aside some of the lower ones and choose not to bring them on a trip, and you just use them around the house. And then when you finish basically the battery, when it's been discharged, you take your label and you pull it off. So you know that whenever you encounter a battery with a label pulled off, that it has been discharged, and you're not going to accidentally mix it up with your other ones. So I haven't quite done this with the Eneloop yet, because these all come pre-charged, and probably before the trip I will trickle charge them up and then label them accordingly.